Hello, I am finally back. I know it's been a long time, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, I have not been working on my game that whole time. I have been pretty lazy working on my game if you saw my community post, and I've really just honestly been not working on it, except in this past month where I actually have been working on it, and that's the stuff I'm going to be sharing with you today. And before I start, I just want to thank the one person that looked at and liked my community post. Thank you. Now, just looking at the screen, you probably notice a lot of things different about the game. Something you might not notice is how fast the player moves and swings. I updated it to be faster and to make the game a little fast-paced, and you might wonder why I did that, and that's because one of the things that is obvious, the enemy movement. They now move back and forth across the screen, and you might be wondering, why? I said in my last devlog that they would jump up and down, and I don't really like that anymore. So yeah, I made it so they run across the screen back and forth, and because of that, the game is way more fast-paced and the player needs to move faster to survive. Also, I forgot to mention, the enemy health bar animation is actually faster now to compensate for the swinging animation being faster. Another thing you might notice is that when I kill the enemies, timers appear. Those timers are to make the game easier, because originally when I made the move across the screen like that, it was really hard, because you'd randomly just get ambushed from the enemies respawning and it was kind of dumb. But I fixed it by adding timers. Now this kind of took a while because, I had to make each millisecond a different frame and I had to do pixel art for it, but honestly, that was kind of fun. And it wasn't really that annoying. And they look great. Speaking of surviving, yes, the player can finally die. Every time they're hit by an enemy, as you can see in the top left corner, or maybe not, depending on how good I am at the game, you lose half a heart, and you have 3 hearts total, so you have 6 hits until you die. Currently, there's no way to regain your health, but I might add something like that in the future. Now, one of the interesting parts about this project was making the enemy movement. As you can see on the screen, there's a looping timer leading into 2 other timers that are not looping, but technically are. Now that might sound confusing, but I'll explain it. Basically, at the top there, you can see there's a delay with the looping timer. That's essentially how often this triggers. And that loop is hugging the 2 timers in the side of it, which means those timers will trigger every time the top timer triggers. Now, I didn't realize this when I was first making it, so I was basically just bugging out my entire game by making the value of the loop smaller than the values of the timers combined, which is what I ended up doing. But I eventually got it working, and yeah. Also, there's technically a score system, and you're probably wondering where that is, and that's because it technically doesn't exist. Well, you do get a score every time you hit an enemy, it just doesn't show it on the screen. It actually reports it to the console because I didn't have enough time to make a full, UI for the score system. And I didn't really feel like it. So there's a score. If you just close the game and look there at the console, then yeah, it will show you your score. But basically how it works is once you hit someone, you have 4 seconds to hit them again and then your combo will go up. But there's a problem with this. I messed up when coding it. Basically what it did is when you hit someone, it triggers a 4-second timer. This timer cannot be stopped, reset, paused, anything. Once it ends, it will go down to 0 seconds. So even if you've hit someone in those 4 seconds, it will still go back to 0 after those 4 seconds, which is kind of dumb. But yeah, there is technically a score system. And one thing I noticed with this score system is that, I got 25,300, which is a pretty good score. But yeah, after getting that high score, I realized the game was really repetitive. Like, really repetitive. You're basically just going up and down and killing them really easily, and then, oh, I got hit, oh boy. And then you go up and down, you hit them, and you get hit, oh boy. And then you go up and down, you hit them, you get hit, oh boy. And then you go up and down, you hit them, and you hit them, and you get hit, oh boy. And then you go up and down, you hit them, and you get hit, you get hit, oh boy. Yeah, it's really boring. So I'm gonna make the game less repetitive by forcing you to stay in the middle instead of on the left side. Basically by making the enemies be able to spawn on the left side and not just the right side, making the game a little bit more fast-paced and harder to dodge the enemies. And that might make the game harder, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Okay, let me just say, I phrased that kind of weird. I did not notice that I got 25,300, and that's a pretty good score. That's what it made it sound like. I noticed that when I got a high score, that the game was really repetitive. I just wanted to point that out. Also, I just wanted to take a minute to explain why there are 4 different variables for the score system, and I'll go through them all. Score is your score, the score you currently have. Score multiplier is the score multiplied by the multiplier that you are going to get after you hit an enemy. Multiplier is your multiplier, and default score is just always set to 100, so it can be multiplied by the multiplier. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Also, it's kind of funny. So, you know how I said in my last devlog that I could never possibly ever use this code for anything else I could possibly do? That's what I used for the enemy movement. Just thought that was kind of funny. Another thing I said in my last devlog that's not gonna happen is I said I was gonna have, I don't know, I think I said like 5 enemies on screen at the same time. It's only gonna be 3. I'm not gonna have any more than 3 on screen at the same time. And because all those things I said in my last devlog aren't true, I'm not going to make any promises besides that I might do this or I might do that like I did in this video. Also, I just want to mention in my last video I might have sounded like shy or like quiet or something. And the reason why is because the voice recorder I was using, if I talked just a little bit, it would be fine, but if I talked normally, it would be really loud. And my brain didn't think of the super smart idea of just change how loud it is in the editor. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of that before. Excited to see what my game becomes because I sure am. And please subscribe because it pressures me to make more videos because more people care about me. Now, making enemy movement was one of the interesting parts of this project. As you can see on screen, I have a looping loop, not a looping loop, a looping timer, sir.